Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France, and of course you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful July the 3rd, 2019, Grande Deportes. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, getting ready for this great 4th of July that's ready to roll in here tomorrow. But, you know, we got all the sports that's going on in the U.S., but all the world's interest in sports is going on over in Europe right now, in France and England, Charlton.
Yeah, I guess there might be an embargo was lifted on the cost of tea and the cost of wine, but we have our own California tea, we have our own California wine, so maybe some American teams are going across the pond playing sports. A lot of good things happening on this beautiful 4th of July weekend. It really feels like a weekend because hardly anybody's doing anything today in California. All the grocery stores are full. I even had a funny story about what happened in the bank today, but I do want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. So Big C, you know fireworks are illegal if they're illegal, right? So you know how it never fails. There's always some good old boys. You hear gunshots fired into the air, and you know you could tell it's just rapid gunfire. What is it about good old boys that would use gunshots in the air to celebrate the 4th of July instead of just going down and buying some fireworks? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, is always a lack of intelligence. You got to realize if a projectile goes up, it must come down at a high velocity also, Charlton.
Yep.
And many people have been injured and fatally injured, you know, during this 4th of July weekend that we celebrate every year in America. You would think that other Americans would be more prescient and intelligent and think about the safety of others instead of just going out, yay-hooing it up and firing off a firearm in the air, Charlton.
Yeah. Now, it corresponds with something I heard on the news in Northern California. It doesn't mean that it's happening all over the place, but I want to tie it in because of budget cuts, like a county or a state not having enough money. So there's a thing where they would have on some, I guess, telephone poles or power lines where they could tell where a gunshot was fired. And it was because it was done electronic, like enemy of the state, that technology, it would alert the local police departments. Well, because of funding cuts and not enough police officers standing in the middle of intersections with a boot saying, will you please fund our police department? I know POTUS has heard of these funding cuts. But I saw, and I know you talked about it yesterday, but I saw it last night. They have military tanks to celebrate something for a POTUS in the military that he ran 5 times from, Big C. Had they put some of that money back into the states, maybe they could fund projects that would keep people safe. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, I mean, even the Pentagon is against what he's doing, and most of Congress, Charlton. But you think about a self-serving president that wants to bring all this military arsenal. We have the greatest fighting force in the world in America.
Yeah.
We don't need to have a nuclear display like you see in North Korea, like you see in France. The U.S. is always on call, Charlton, around the world to protect everybody, basically.
Yeah.
But, you know, here it is that he wants to waste taxpayers' money to celebrate himself, Charlton. The 4th of July has been going on in America, Charlton, before he was born, before he was president, and will be continuing on after he was president.
Yeah.
No president in history have felt that they needed to waste taxpayers' dollars to have military hardware flying around and driving up and down the streets of Washington, D.C.
No.
We've always, as a nation, had traditional parades in towns with your local fire department, your local sheriff department, Charlton, high school and middle school bands, and other, you know, accolades that go on up and down the street.
Yeah.
But the president has been around the world, and he has seen how dictators have celebrated themselves, whether it's in Russia, whether it's in the Philippines, whether it's in North Korea. And so he wants to bring out a military arsenal. You got to also understand, Charlton, our streets of America are not built to support tanks.
No.
And you're bringing these tanks down pedestrian streets in Washington, D.C. So think about the disruption that you can have to the streets, Charlton, as far as tearing up pavement and asphalt.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you got to spend more money to go in and repave these streets. I've been fortunate enough to have been in Washington, D.C. on several occasions, and I know the route where they're talking about having this parade, Charlton, in front of the Lincoln Memorial.
Yeah.
But why do you need to do this? All of American history, presidents who have served this country with honor have never felt that they needed to waste the taxpayers' dollars to have grandioses for themselves, Charlton.
Yep.
This is about the people. Pull out a grill, put some hot dogs and hamburgers on it, Charlton.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple slabs of ribs.
Yep.
Throw some cold ones in the ice chest, and just relax and enjoy yourself.
Well, that does sound like it's Southern style cooking, but it's just amazing when I heard that announcement, because technology means you don't have to have people do it. I mean, artificial intelligence, according to many of the economists, will replace about 40% of the workforce by 2035. Big C. That's just 16 years from now. So I want to make this one announcement, because 4th of July is when they're cracking down on everybody. I think they were saying that now they're gonna get rid of that surveillance system, and if they're asking the residents, if you hear gunshots, you're supposed to call and say where it came from. Now I want to ask you a question. I'm not always the brightest person in the room, but when I hear gunshots, I don't go to look and see where the gunshots came from. I'm ducked. Does that make any sense?
Well, yeah, I mean, whoever put out that PSA to alert us where you saw the gunshots coming from is not the person who wants to stand out there and see where the gunshots are coming from.
Right.
Even law enforcement will not run towards gunshots.
No.
They make sure that they have protection prior to going into that scenario, Charlton, and they have on their flag vests. They try to bring out the shields and helmets and all of those things.
Yeah.
So you're asking the average everyday citizen, Charlton, to put himself or herself in peril, potentially, going out to see who is firing off a weapon on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
As you said, this is what law enforcement is for. When you take away from local, state, and city budgets, Charlton, think about this national emergency we had just a few months ago, back in November, where the president was crying to Congress that he needed $5 billion to build a wall that Mexico was going to pay for.
Yep.
And, what has he done with this $5 billion, Charlton? He diverted funds
You saw the tanks
from other needy projects in the United States.
Yeah.
That's what he did. And now these funds are sitting there, and these projects can't be finished. Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
He diverted funds from Puerto Rico that was still rebuilding and still will be rebuilding for the next decade, Charlton. He said they needed no more money.
Yeah.
He diverted funds from Houston, Texas, Charlton, where they were still rebuilding from a hurricane.
Yeah.
Said they had enough money. And so when you think about how this president, he diverted funds from the Pentagon. The funds that he diverted from the Pentagon, Charlton, now he's going to use it for a parade.
Yeah.
Even as a part of his base, a loyal supporter of this president.
Yeah.
You have to really consider, is he doing things for the good of America, or is he doing things for the good of Donald Trump?
Yeah, we know as POTUS. And one more thing I'll say about law enforcement, because it's funny. I mean, not even funny. It's really Malthusian when they want to get rid of population. Go out and look for the gunfire and then call us to tell us where it came from. That's just dumb. I mean, who would do that as a way of that? Is that what our law enforcement become now? Private citizens go look where the gunfire came from, the gunshots, and then call us? No, it's crazy. I also saw one more thing I'll touch on before the 4th of July holiday weekend. We're gonna give out a national hotline for people who need help. But we're asking people, please don't drink and drive. We know there's a couple of dumb people who will, because some people are just ignorant, and they think that they can drink and drive, and they know how to hold their tolerance, Big C. So the Highway Patrol, California Highway Patrol, they announced a 700-mile ramp up in surveillance on Interstate 80, which runs really between San Francisco and New York, but it's just from the San Francisco Interstate 80 starts at the Bay Bridge, if anyone's familiar with downtown San Francisco, and is going to the Utah border, so through California and then Nevada. That's some 700 miles. Now, I may have gotten this wrong. This is about people who drive recklessly, whether it's drinking and driving or speeding. They said in that 1 week time last year, 1 week, which last I heard was 7 days, they had over 700 tickets issued. 700! Big C. That's 100 every day for 7 days. And so for people that are still dumb enough to drink and drive, please don't let your kids do it. Don't encourage the people that you say you love to get out and drink and drive, because most fatalities, they're caused by drunken drivers and people who are speeding. So if you're a family member and you're asking your loved ones to drink and drive, I hope that they hold you culpable, because I think they can. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, if you look at your local highway patrol in any state in America, it's almost like being an NFL official.
Yeah.
You can throw a flag on every play as an NFL official. You can stop almost every car that passes by you if you're a highway patrol.
Yeah.
It's selective on how they want to pull over cars, Charlton. And I see situations every day, and I'm appalled by it. It's always looking around where are the police? I mean, we have hands-free laws, and I see more people talking on their cell phones, texting on their cell phones,
driving
while they drive. Actually, they text more than they talk.
Yeah.
And that's appalling, because you're putting others in peril. I was even driving home today, Charlton, and there was an accident on the road that I take all the time where a car had T-boned another car.
Yeah.
One of them was texting while this happened.
Yep.
And not paying attention to traffic during rush hour. So, the perils that Americans put each other in, Charlton, for their own luxury, for their own accommodation, the laws are not enforced enough by Highway Patrol. The 700 tickets were not enough.
No, it seems like that's what they were saying. People speed too much. So I want to say for the 4th of July, there's a lot of people that get out and get stupid up. Dumb people do that. But if you're smart, if you see someone, just call 911. Someone's drinking and driving on the highway. You got to do that. National Suicide Hotline, or anyone who's gone through some emotional stuff and they can't think right, 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. And if you're a teenager, all the teenagers, for the most part, are out of school. They don't like to call, but they'll text you. You can text 838-255. That's 838-255 if you're going through any kind of issues and you need some help. But we just want to make sure that people understand that drinking and driving doesn't mix. And also, some knucklehead that's going to set off his own fireworks in his garage and cause a house fire that affects the whole neighborhood, Big C. I've seen it all in California, Big C, and nuts.
Well, you want to talk about a knucklehead setting off fireworks. You might want to call Jason Pierre-Paul.
Oh, yeah.
Former New York Giants defensive end, now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Lost a few fingers, Charlton, playing with illegal fireworks.
Yeah.
So not only do they set off fires, Charlton, they are very hazardous.
Yeah.
And they come with instructions on the packages. And they also tell you, do not deal with this in defined areas.
Yeah.
Because of what happened, Charlton. So many injuries every year occur during the 4th of July, Charlton, from fires to people getting dismembered, losing, pieces of a limb, burns on their body, Charlton. So, use the utmost of caution during this 4th of July weekend, Charlton. Anybody who is dealing with fireworks, make sure that children are in a secure area, that they're not in harm's way. When you're talking about firing off these fireworks, Charlton, always think of other safeties beyond yourself when you're dealing with fireworks.
That's very true. I just want to say, everyone have a wonderful 4th of July. It's always great seeing the fireworks. I love it, especially when it's done by professionals. That way it keeps everybody safe. Speaking of fireworks, I know there's all the talk around the NBA universe. Where is Kawhi Leonard going to sign? And as ironically, he flew back into Toronto. Private planes are pretty nice. I know you've been on some private planes, Big C. You don't have to wait for everybody else like us, regular plebeian people, Big C. I know that they were treating him like he was O.J. Simpson. And now I know Laura Ingraham says shut up and dribble. But I guess Kawhi and his staff didn't listen, because he flies around the country in private plane. But would you believe they had helicopters? Now, I don't know how safe that is for the Federal Aviation to allow helicopters to trace a private plane just so they could get TV coverage of whether this guy's going to get off the plane. He wasn't playing basketball on the plane. He was flying. I think that's a waste of taxpayer money for the FAA to have someone patrolling if the helicopter can follow an athlete. I think that's way too much coverage, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, this is the fixation that everybody has with athletes nowadays. It's the overzealousness. Kawhi Leonard has put a lot of pressure on mainstream media because they all had these predictions about what he was going to do and when he's going to do it. He's 4 days into it now, Charlton, and they're still guessing. He told everybody he was going to give Toronto the last opportunity to do a presentation after everybody else had done their presentation. He owed that to them, Charlton.
Yeah.
But, they're all right now sitting around, their butts as tight as a frog in a snowstorm, hoping that one of their guesses will come true.
Yeah.
They've all thrown out 3 to 5 teams where Kawhi Leonard will end up.
Yeah.
And so, it's the spaghetti game when you think about it from these announcers.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to the Lakers. He's going to the Clippers. He may go back to Toronto.
Yeah.
We think this would be his best fit. Kawhi Leonard is a grown man.
Yeah.
A grown black millionaire to start with.
Yep.
He makes up his mind on where he wants to go, just like all the other free agents, Charlton. They sit and look and see what the best position for them. It's not all about money.
Yeah.
That's where the media is lost. Oh, well, he can get a max contract here.
His cup runneth
If
over.
I'm making $150 million, Charlton,
I'll take it.
Another $40 million is not going to make any difference at the end of the day.
Only to the
it
IRS.
Really isn't.
Yeah.
The IRS is going to take it. So this is what all these athletes are looking at. It's like, okay, I'm okay making 140, 160 million.
Yeah.
I don't need 190 to 205.
Yeah.
I've already made 150 million in my career.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting on this next contract, I was already set for life.
Yeah.
I'm even more set.
Yeah.
And he already has 2 championship rings. Look at the number of players that are in the NBA today.
Yeah.
That have never had a sniff at a championship ring.
Yeah.
Look at the number of players that are in the NBA Hall of Fame.
Yes.
That have never had a sniff at a championship ring.
Well,
this man has 2 with 2 different organizations and 2 MVPs. And yet everybody on television who is sitting there, Kawhi is going to do this. Kawhi has to do that.
Yeah.
Kawhi is giving everybody the middle finger right now. That's what he's doing. Matter of fact, he's got 2 of them up because he's got 2 championship rings and he got a middle finger, got them both on his middle fingers. And you know who I am. I'm Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
I don't have to talk to you. I don't have to tell you what I'm doing.
Yes.
And he's going to make his mind up to make the decision to where he wants to play, Charlton.
Yeah.
It's Kawhi's decision.
Well, I got to ask you a question because I learned about the Southern vernacular just makes me laugh. How do you know how tight a frog's behind gets in a snowstorm, Big C? I would like to know the answer to that question, Big C. Your thoughts?
What was that question again, Charlton?
I said, how do you know how tight a frog's behind will get in a snowstorm? I want to know the answer to that question.
Well, I mean, you dealt with frozen meat before, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Okay, it's hard to maneuver.
But it was dead when I did it, Big C. It wasn't alive.
But hey, frozen meat is hard to pull apart.
Right.
I mean, if you got some frozen ground beef, you can't pull it apart.
Yeah.
Picture that as a frog's butt in the snowstorm.
I thought frogs are warm-blooded, but hey, that's why you serve them up at the restaurants down south. People know about that. And I want to give my own PSA. I was in the bank today, standing in line like everybody else, and I saw a grown man. Now, this guy must have been in his 60s. And he obviously forgot a belt because about 7 inches of his backside was showing in a bank. And it jarred my memory when you said a frog's behind in the cold. It's hot in California. Can we give a PSA for grown? I know some young people are just dumb. They haven't learned anything yet. They couldn't care less if their grandparents are proud of them. So they walk around with their pants down on their knees. But what's a 60-year-old man doing with his pants sagging? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he's trying to find his inner youth, evidently.
Yeah.
Or, he may have gotten out of prison. You never know.
You never know.
But, I think it's an embarrassment, regardless of the age of an individual, Charlton, when they're walking around with their pants down. Every time I see it, I'm appalled.
Yeah.
I think about my parents. I think about my grandparents. I think about my children.
Yeah.
How would they think of me if I walked into a dwelling looking like that, Charlton?
Yeah.
And, I know my parents would go apoplectic if I did that.
They just be embarrassed.
What the hell's wrong with you, boy? It's like, my mother was like, pull your pants up before I whoop your butt.
Yeah.
Even though she can't get around.
Yeah.
That threat is still there, just her voice. So, I think, the eras that we live in America today, and people say, well, they're just expressing themselves. Express yourself with some intelligence, with some education.
Yeah,
that's how
ways.
I want people to express themselves, not showing their butt in underwear walking up and down the street.
Now, this may be self-serving when I say this. I'm so glad that he was not African American. He was mainstream You know how white society has stolen everything from the black community, where there's...
Well, Charlton, you ought to see some of the white guys down here.
Yeah.
I mean, before sagging became it, they were always doing that.
Yep.
You know, I mean, people think that black people invented
not a
sagging.
black
No, they
thing.
didn't.
Nope.
Look at a bunch of Southern boys with those
Yep.
pot bellies and pants can't get up.
Yeah.
And when they bend over, you know, they always call it the repairman.
Yeah.
You know, the repairman would bend over, and it was like a full moon every time he did that.
That's funny.
And so, as much as people want to think that African Americans invented sagging, no, they didn't.
Nope.
There's a whole lot of Southern boys in the South that were at NASCAR races and other events like that.
Yeah.
And the repairman that was always showing that full moon, Charlton.
Finally, something we stole from the Europeans as opposed to Europeans stealing from the Africans, Big Z. I want to say for a young person, Coco Gauff won her second round match today, becoming the youngest woman to reach the Wimbledon third round since American Jennifer Capriati did it back in 1991. And as a young person, 15 years old, you notice she wears her pants up high, so she doesn't embarrass her parents and grandparents. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, she plays the game with class and articulation.
Yeah.
You know, looking at, you know, the young Miss Gauff and admiring her, Charlton, I think about, when I look at her, I see Venus Williams all over.
Yeah.
This was Venus Williams, Charlton, 25, 28 years ago.
Yeah.
What Coco Gauff is doing. I mean, she has mesmerized the world, you know. When I think about Roger Federer stopping and talking to her today in admiration,
very nice.
You know, wishing her well. And the tennis world has embraced her.
Yep.
You know, it's wonderful to see an African-American woman being embraced on the world stage, Charlton. They moved her match from the second court to center court today because of people wanting to see her, Charlton.
Yeah.
And she delivered. You know, she only had 15 unforced errors all day long. She never had a service break.
Yeah.
She dominated on the world's largest stage in tennis today, Charlton. So when you think about dreaming big,
Yep.
and we always look at African-American athletes, and we only look at them as football players and basketball players.
Yeah.
When African-American players play a sport that they single-handedly have to compete against somebody else, whether it's baseball, whether it's tennis, or whether it's golf.
Yeah.
They have generally dominated, Charlton, and seeing Coco Gauff, coming onto the world stage now,
Yeah.
at this transitional time, we see how Venus Williams and Serena Williams' career have not been what they have been over the last 2 years.
Yep.
And to see another young African-American come up and potentially take the torch and run with it.
Yeah.
What an inspiring message for young African-American women in America and around the world.
You know, I just want to salute anybody who's trying to do anything. It's not always easy. I'm sure she's failed more than she's succeeded. And no matter what color you are, if you believe in something, just do it. There'll be people that will come into your life. There will be people who will exit your life. Just keep being who you are, and that will take care of itself. But I wish her the best. I know when you start winning, there are going to be more people that show up, especially when they start knowing about it. And so I hope she's guarded and that she has some good onlookers to make sure that she's protected from all the people that want to sell you an idea.
She has both parents there, Charlton, in her life. They're both there at Wimbledon. They're escorting her because she can't travel the world because she's underage.
Yeah.
And so her mother and father have been there. They were both tremendous athletes. Her mother was a gymnast. Her dad was a college basketball player. So she has great genetics, Charlton, in her upbringing. And you have two parents that have college educations who can guide her down the path of direction.
Yeah.
And that's what they've done. I'm quite sure that they put together a support group around her, Charlton, to help plan and protect her future.
Yeah, and I hope that's the case, and I know it will happen. So congratulations to her as a young person. I guess age is nothing but a number. What did somebody? I think some politicians are running for office one day, and someone told Reagan that he was getting too old to run for president, and he told the young man he won't hold his age against him. But everybody knows it's all fair and level war. We hear that now with Biden. We hear that now with Sanders or Kamala Harris. People have their own choices. But again, congratulations. We love that, especially coming up on the 4th of July and then across the pond really doing her stuff for the United States. Also, for the women, I want to say USA, USA, USA. I love that chant, especially in the Olympics. It takes me back to the days of when I used to watch the young Olympic boxing team. It was like Sugar Ray Leonard, or watching guys like that were getting ready to fight. I believe it was Holyfield also was an Olympian. He has a son that's a great fighter down there in Georgia. He's trained by a guy named Sugar Bird. I know they work out at the gym in Atlanta. there's a lot of good people that are getting ready for the Olympics. And to have the United States soccer team, the women, across the pond doing their thing, they're going to play the Netherlands that defeated Sweden today by the score of 1-0 in the World Cup semifinals. And they're going to face the American women. Now, Rapone's going to be able to play again, and I hope the United States can win this for so many reasons, not only because I'm from the United States of America, but because our team, the women's team, have the vision to sue their own federation for pay inequality. That's like Kurt Flood did it for Major League Baseball. And also some of the vitriol that's come against them from POTUS, which is a shame. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the U.S. women have played with pride and professionalism throughout this entire World Cup.
Amazing.
They've gone with an attitude, and as an athlete, you have to have an attitude.
Yep.
You have to have that attitude and demeanor. I don't care about my opponent. And I remember as a young athlete, I used to tell people, don't take this butt whipping, but I used to ask the word and see it first,
Wasn't that in the movie?
Because it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
And that's how you have to be as an athlete. You can't go out there looking to be, hey, we're going to play patty cake or have a pillow fight.
Yeah.
I'm not your friend right now.
Yeah.
I'm here to seek and destroy. I'm here to destroy your will to survive.
Yeah.
That's how you have to be as an athlete. You have to be basically a predator. And so I admire these U.S. women because the vision that they play with, Charlton.
Yeah.
They're very aggressive.
Yep.
They're very salient. And they play as a team. That this is what they do. They don't care about who scores.
Yeah.
They set each other up. They support each other on and off that field, Charlton, when they're together.
Yeah.
This is one of the greatest teams that's ever been put together in U.S. history. You think about it. They have an opportunity to repeat as World Cup champions.
Yeah.
You don't get that on the world stage, Charlton. You don't get it in the Olympics. You don't get the basketball team going back saying, okay, we're going to repeat as world champions.
Yep.
You don't get the hockey team going back saying, we're going to repeat as world champions, Charlton. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so for these ladies to have accomplished this feat, Charlton, to go back and have an opportunity to repeat as world champions, this could be the greatest team in U.S. soccer history.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. I remember when they had the World Cup. It was at the Rose Bowl many moons ago.
1999. With
and
Prince.
The year Prince. I went to a Prince concert in 1999. He was amazing how dominant he was with his vocal cords and he really put on a great show. I remember seeing Prince many times in California, Oakland, San Francisco, even down in San Jose. But this does a lot for women. Again, we've had the Me Too movement, which is kind of silent right now. It's like the ocean waves. It's up and then it's down. The tide's always coming and going. But I think it would be so universe. I guess a reward from the universe if the United States women could win, because they are standing up for women equality, pay equality. They actually sue for it, Big C. They don't just hope and pray and put their hands together. They actually file motions in the court, and we know that's important. And it would be great if they won with the criticism from a man in the United States of America. They're trying to overturn, Roe v. Wade. They're overturning a lot of things. If you're not conscious enough to know what's going on, because some people are just focused on sports. Who won the game? They couldn't care less what's going on, deciding if women will have sovereignty over their own bodies. So maybe I'm looking too much into it, but I really like when conscientious people play sports, not just someone looking to win the game. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I would love to see these women win, because now it's a backlash against the president who has attacked them. You think about, you're supposed to be running the United States of America and supporting all of Americans.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet you're attacking the women of America physically and verbally,
yeah,
whether they're in this country or out of this country.
Yeah.
I would love for Fox News to recognize that, how he's doing that.
Yeah.
Don't sit there and say, well, he fights back when somebody attacks him. I haven't seen one woman attack the president yet, but yet he's been accused of physical assault on women more than 16 times.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And verbal assault dozens and dozens of times, Charles.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
This is what he does. This is supposed to be the man that's the leader of this country. So if his base believes in what he does as far as attacking women, women are not safe in America because of this president, Charles.
Well, I got to tell you about my good friend Rush Limbaugh. When Rush Limbaugh was working at a station in Northern California, I did an internship when I was in college at that station, the great Rush Limbaugh. And he's gone on to bigger and better things. And I heard him say the other day, because I still listen to Rush every now and then. I'm not a ditto head, but I do listen to all people. And he mentioned that the Democrats are trying to give all the illegals, he said illegals, I couldn't tell which continent illegals came from, I mean, he has a background that came from Europe, so maybe he's talking about illegal people from Europe. But he said the Democrats want to give all of the illegals free health care. But he didn't say who the illegals were, Big C. Was that an omission on purpose, Big C, you thought?
It is an omission on purpose, Jonathan. We have more illegal immigrants that come into this country through ports called airports.
Yeah.
Than we do that cross the southern border.
Yeah.
I mean, it's horrific what this administration is doing down on the southern border. So if you want to talk about ICE rounding people up, Charlton,
yeah,
if ICE started rounding up people that were the complexion of the president, they wouldn't have time to deal with the southern border, Charlton.
Yeah.
But they go after them because they have that brown skin.
Yeah.
And they are a menace to America, Charlton. When we look at the drug seizures in this country, Charlton, they're not coming across the southern border. 17 tons of cocaine wasn't on a ship coming up the Rio Grande.
Yeah.
It was not, Charlton.
That's true.
It came into the port of Philadelphia. 14 tons came into the port of New Jersey.
Yeah.
And this was all within 2 months of each other, Charlton. Those are the ones they confiscated.
Yeah.
So you got to think when they confiscate one of these shipments, Charlton, somebody gave that up. They just didn't arbitrarily say, okay, we're going to go into this container here and find 17 tons of cocaine.
Yeah, they don't drop down on that.
Somebody pointed out the 17 tons because they had to let the 150 tons get by.
Well, maybe Rush Limbaugh knew what he was saying when he said that the United States wants to give the illegals free insurance. So he didn't say which continent they were coming from, but I just thought that good old boy steals up to his dog whistles. I want to just say, as far as Big C Sports, we're going to do what's called a Big C pause. We're going to come back, talk about some baseball, maybe even mention Rush Limbaugh because he's still someone I listen to. And every now and then, when you gotta go on a diet, Big C, I don't do the Oxycontin like Rush Limbaugh did back in the day. You ever eat something that makes you throw up? Big C, you can listen to things that make you throw up too every now and then. That's what I love doing. We'll take a Big C pause, and we'll come right back in just a moment, and we hope that you'll come back with us. All right, this is Big C Sports coming back from the Big C pause. And we thank you for following Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, worldwide on iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Speaker. You can follow us on YouTube. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity Comcast Television. And if you have the app in your home called Alexa, when you go home, say, Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You'll hear a word from our sponsors. Then you'll hear welcome to the show. And then I'll introduce Big C and he'll do his thing. So I really thank our sponsors for their support. You know, we talk about baseball. I love bringing up Curt Flood because even when we get into what's going on in baseball, the Yankees had their streak snapped of the home runs. But I want us to be conscious when we talk about baseball to do what no other sports show in the universe will do. And that's pay homage to Curt Flood. As an African American, and I can only speak for that because that's what I am, there will be times in your life where you get accused of things. Oftentimes you'll get accused of by people who say they really care about you and they believe in you and they support you and they want to, all that stuff. But then those same people can accuse you of stuff you did not do. Curt Flood wasn't the only one that went through that. There were people that called him unpatriotic. There were people that said he was a rebel riser, all because he wanted fairness and equality in the pursuit of the American dream, the pursuit of happiness. And he helped people get more money, but he had to sue for it, Big C. Talk about why it's important at times. When you want to get your point across, it's okay to pray. It's okay to ask people to shake hands and get along. But like the great Judge Wapner said back in the day and Judge Judy, sometimes you got to sue people, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's been the plight of African Americans in American history, is that they've had to fight the legal system to get what they wanted. It just has not been given freely as Americans.
Yeah.
You know, it's always been unequal justice for African Americans in this country, whether you were in the sports or whether you're in mainstream society.
Yep.
You know, even in today's age of 2019, Charlton, African Americans still have to fight through the court system for equality in America.
Yeah, it's true. And it's so true that I really hope, and in fact, I think I know that Big C Sports is the only sports show in the universe that will even ask our young people to look into your legal rights. You got to look at what the law says you are. We are a nation of the law, not a nation of different ethnic groups. We're not a nation of different religions, because none of that matters outside of the law. That's why this separation of church and state. There are a lot of churches that go around praying and asking for money because they want to get grants to do whatever they're doing. They pastor may need 7 houses and 10 luxury cars and 3 private airplanes. We don't know. But at the same time, they get grants. That's why a lot of them have nonprofit status, so they can get grants and do whatever they got to do with the money. But if you are a young person, part of what I love about Big C Sports is I hope that when you listen to us talk, that you can Google it. Because if we're not credible, you can find out right away. You don't have to wait for 2 or 3 years. Big C, your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, I think honesty is the one thing that we miss today in America, led by the Oval Office. When, you're spewing out lies and falsehoods on a daily basis, misleading people.
Yep.
I mean, our show is not meant to mislead people, Charlton. I mean, we're going to make errors like anyone else does.
Yeah.
But we hope to be able to correct that, and that you find that we've made an error and correct it for us.
Yeah.
But, we want to give you the best information that's available to us to pass on to you.
Yeah.
Whether it's something we heard or it's our own personal thoughts and feelings. And most shows are built on that. Personal thoughts and feelings. That's what analyzation is all about.
Yeah.
What your perception is of something. And so we give out a lot of information that's helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah.
We want to give out knowledgeable information first and foremost.
Yeah, that's important. So when you hear of young players, and for black men, to me, this is fascinating. Because I grew up being called the N-word by a white school teacher when I was in the 1st grade. I'll never forget it. Her name is Mrs. Stevens. One of the things I remember her calling me, it was not Charleston, it was the N-word. As a 6-year-old kid in the 1st grade, in a class full of white kids. She didn't call that to the white kids. But I was educated by my parents. I knew all life came from Africa. That meant that she came from Africa too, as white as her skin was. But she knew that also, or maybe she didn't. But the point is that we were educated growing up, and we didn't leave it up to other people to tell us something. We had to read, but now you can Google and get it faster. And you can Google this. With 5 games left in Major League Baseball before the All-Star break, the New York Yankees, they head to Tampa to play the Rays in a 4-game series. Think about this, Big C. They have a 5.5 game lead in the division over the Rays. Now, that's the same Rays team that's talking about going back to Montreal for half the year. But that's the same Yankee team that had their string of home run games snapped against the New York Mets of all people. It couldn't get snapped across the pond, but it happened against their rival Nets. Big C, your thoughts? The Mets.
Well, the Mets figured that they had a little jet lag and they kept them out of the strike zone,
Yeah.
And the Yankees weren't able to become the Bronx Bombers once they came back home.
Yeah.
But, as much talk as there been about the Yankees' dominance, and you think about only a 5.5 game lead over the Rays.
Yeah.
And the Rays were a team that's in the abyss. They may not even have a solid home when you think about it. They're talking about migrating back and forth between the great north of Montreal, Canada, and to the southern perimeter of
Tampa, yeah.
And so, here's an organization that we know nothing about when you look at television. This is not a flagship organization that the broadcast companies talk about.
Yeah.
They talk about all the heritage teams. I mean, they talk about the Sox more than they talk about the Rays, and the Sox are struggling. They're not independent chase right now.
No.
But when you look at Tampa, I mean, this is, a decade ago, they were in the same position where they were one of the hottest teams in the East, in the Major League, in the American League.
Yeah.
And right now they're doing it again. And to only be 5.5 games. If they go down from this 4-game series when the Yankees arrive.
Yeah.
Think about it. If the Rays sweep the Yankees, they're a game and a half behind in the division, Charlton.
Yep.
Knocking on the door for the lead after the All-Star break.
Yeah, that's how close this race is. And when you think about it, today is July 3rd. And the good news is that 21 teams, are within 5 games of a playoff spot, and 18 are within 3 games. But the bad news is that only one division race is closer than 4.5 games. That shows you how, I guess you would call that parity in baseball. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, it is parity in baseball, Charlton, and it shows that only a couple teams right now are dominant in baseball. And we think about the 2 major leaders in baseball, and that's the Yankees and the Dodgers.
Yeah.
But you have all these other teams right now that are catching their stride and clipping at their heels.
Yeah.
So as you think the team, and you talked about it a couple weeks ago, do you think that the Dodgers are, getting too big of a lead?
Right.
That lead has dwindled, Charlton,
Yeah.
in a matter of 2 weeks, down to 5 games.
Yeah.
So, when you think that you're running away, you don't want to take your foot off the gas.
No.
It's just like a race car. the minute you take your foot off the pedal, you're going to be caught from behind.
Yeah.
And everybody who is out there playing, Charlton, is competing to win.
Yep.
They don't go out there to lay down. And you spoke about 21 teams right now in Major League Baseball are in contention as we reach the 4th of July weekend.
Yep.
21 teams in Major League Baseball. So we should have some packed houses in the second half of the season, Charlton, because all of these teams, I think it's only 9 teams really out of the pennant race in baseball.
Yeah, and that can change by the time we get into August. It's just a matter of how well you swing the bat. And speaking of swinging that bat, Big C, I still wonder if do they give out frog legs in the South? I know in California you can get crab legs, you can get calamari. I don't know why they deep fry it, but I guess some people like that. Is frog legs a staple in sports stadiums down south, Big C? Have you ever heard of that? Getting some frog legs with frozen behind. Big C?
Well, it's a delicacy in many southern restaurants, Charlton.
Yeah.
You're not going to get them in the stadiums. I mean, you're going to get the traditional food, but so many stadiums now, Charlton, are going to gourmet restaurants and menus. If you have these luxury suites and you sit up in the corporate areas of these stadiums, Charlton, you can get basically anything you want. I know in going to several NBA games, Charlton, and you have waiters and waitresses that come to you with a menu, and they're pressing it in right on their little tablet that they have, and all of a sudden your food is being delivered to you. They swipe their credit card. You don't have to go to the concessions any longer.
Yeah, well, I know I always eat in the media, and the food is free, unless you're at Golden State. Would you believe? And the food is great. But Golden State charges media to eat. That's not fair. You don't have to pay to get in. Why do you have to pay for the food? That's what they call the bait and switch is what it's called, the bait and switch. They make you pay for food. Now I realize they needed the money to bridge loan to complete Chase Arena, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at some of the members of the media, it look like they never missed a meeting. So, you're going to tell with some of them eat. The days when I was always going to the press room, Charlton, for the pregame meal, and you'd also go back at halftime because they normally serve dessert at halftime, and they had a postgame snack that you could get on the way out of the venue. But, I would go in sometimes, Charlton, and watch guys. I mean,
take a few
the food was free.
Yeah.
Because it was a buffet, and they had a buffet plate.
Yeah. I'll never forget, I was this is back in the days of Candlestick Park over in San Francisco. It was the San Francisco 49ers versus the Arizona Cardinals. I was in the media section at Candlestick Park. People in media know where it is, right under the press box. There was a guy, everything is free. They have about 100 different things that you can eat. And there's some guys from media that were putting some hot dogs in their pant pocket, and by the time they walked around for 2 or 3 minutes, you could see the hot dog seeping through for the juice from it. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, and that's the reason why you would have that down there in San Francisco, with the Warriors. Yeah. Is that this has happened with the media. I know I would always walk out with a cookie or two, because the cookies were gourmet cookies, and they were delectable.
It's a frog leg.
But, as far as food, I wasn't going to walk out of there with food, but I could eat that cookie in my car. I don't want a hot dog. I would never eat a hot dog there.
Yeah, Joey Chestnut wasn't the first one to put extra hot dogs in his gut that he didn't eat. Tonight's Major League Baseball schedule. On 4th of July Eve, really excited about this weekend coming up and all the great things to come in this month of July, Big C. We have Miami at Washington, the New York Yankees at the New York Mets again. We have the Chicago Cubs at Pittsburgh, Boston at Toronto. You have, and thinking about it, for the 4th of July, the Boston Red Sox will be outside of the country. So this team has those frequent flyer miles, and also you got to get those passes to get across to get through customs, even though they have a private plane. But imagine, the Red Sox are the only team to play in three different countries over the last week. They were over in England, and then they're going to be up in Canada as well as the United States of America. What's that say about they have to have their money exchanged, don't they, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, it's a different rate whether you're over in London, whether you're in Canada, whether you're here in the U.S. But you're going to get those frequent flyer miles if they were flying commercial, but Major League Baseball flying charter.
Yeah.
But they're becoming road warriors when you think about it. All these different time zones and different continents that they're playing in.
That's very true. And so congratulations to Boston. Good luck with that. And then Baltimore at Tampa Bay. You have Milwaukee at Cincinnati, Pittsburgh at Atlanta, Los Angeles Angels with heavy hearts at Texas. And I heard the manager for the Angels say, at the loss of a player, obviously thoughts and prayers go to the family. Everybody's really heartbroken, crestfallen by what happened. But he said something that I think can benefit everybody, because everybody's going to make that journey. No one knows what tomorrow brings. Every day is a gift. But he said we can sit around in hotels and be depressed, or we can try to get out and win for the young man. And I think that's what we all got to do in life, Big C. I want to get your thoughts on those words.
You know, mortality, no one's going to evade it, Charlton, in this world. It's going to come to all of us. And so when we look at this, everyone says, you know, how can this happen to someone so young? It happens every day in America.
Yeah.
It just happens to be when it's in the sports world, Charlton, it's resonated more than anything else. Because sports captivates America. It captivates the world.
Yeah.
And so you wonder, how can a young athlete go so early, Charlton? You wonder, how can a young child go so early?
Yeah.
So this is not, you know, selective to the world of sports. It's selected to the world of life, Charlton.
Yeah.
This is just the transition that we will all make. And unfortunately for him and his family, it happened in the prime of a sporting career.
Yeah, every day is a gift. You got to celebrate it, open it up and celebrate it. Los Angeles Angels at Texas. You have Detroit at Chicago, the White Sox. Houston at Colorado. Cleveland at Kansas City. Milwaukee, actually Minnesota's at Oakland. And I really think that Oakland celebrating, I know they're going to miss the Warriors playing there, but they still have the Raiders for one more season. What a shame for teams that are exiting. But at least they have the chance to decide if they want to deal with them or not. And you have San Francisco at San Diego, California series. Arizona at Los Angeles, the Dodgers. St. Louis at Seattle. And in the matchup game, you have Detroit at Chicago, the White Sox. So the state of Major League Baseball coming up on the All-Star game. I'm excited for the All-Star game because you see the bunting. You get to see the best players from the American League and the National League. You really get to see stadiums start to fill up more after the All-Star break. Big C, people get to, reach, what's it like, Calgon, take me away, you can rejuvenate your batteries. Give me your feelings on where the state of Major League Baseball is right now, and do you think we'll get those nets from foul post to foul post by the end of the season, Big C, or at least the playoffs? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think the state of Major League Baseball right now is great. When you look at this All-Star game that's coming up, this is the third youngest starting All-Star team of all time.
Yeah.
So when you think about the youth movement in baseball, we talked about that in tennis over in Wimbledon.
Yeah.
With Coco Gauff.
Yeah.
And here it is, baseball transitioning, Charlton, to the youth movement once again.
Yeah.
It's reestablishing itself for the future.
Yeah.
We've seen stars that have stayed around the game, Charlton, for a long time. Now with this youth movement, you think about the third youngest all-star team of all time combined with both National and American League. That means that there's a lot of young, great hitters and pitchers coming into the ranks of Major League Baseball today, Charlton.
Yeah.
Which means that the young people of America will have new generations to identify with when they go to the ballpark. You don't have to sit there and worry about your dad's favorite.
Right.
You can now grow with your own favorite. And that's where Major League Baseball is going. As far as the netting concerned, Charlton, it's an individual thing, and I still think that parents need to be more responsible. This is nothing new that baseballs are going into the stands, Charlton. It's been going into the stands since day one of Major League Baseball, high school baseball,
yeah,
college baseball, Charlton. But when we have fans nowadays that are less focused when they go to the ballpark, they're more interested in their social media and socializing than what they are in paying attention to the basketball game. I think parents also have to be a little more responsible when you take your children to the game.
Yeah.
Is that you put yourself in the first line of a baseball, not your child in front of you, Charlton.
Yep.
So if something comes to in your direction at a rapid pace, at least you can react faster than the child can.
Yeah,
unfortunately, in all professional sports, Charlton, there's going to be tragedy.
Right.
In life, there's going to be tragedy.
Right.
But you can't hold the league responsible for you not being responsible in the stands.
That's very true. I even see sometimes people walking across a parking lot at a bank today, and they're on their cell phones instead of watching the cars that may be coming from the side to side. It's just amazing how that happens. So
I watched a man walking on his cell phone, walking with his cell phone as I was coming out of a building.
Yeah.
And he had his young daughter with him.
Wow.
And the young daughter was walking behind his car that was backing up, and
wow,
he had lost contact with her.
Yeah.
He was not paying attention to his daughter, and she was almost hit by this car that was backing up.
Yeah.
Until a lady yelled, and he turned and grabbed his daughter, but he was more interested in the conversation that he was having on his cell phone instead of looking at it. And the young girl had to be 2 to 3 years old, Charles.
Yeah, that's a shame. Well, we all know we got to keep our eyes on our kids, and you got to know where your children are. You don't want them accused of something that they did not do, especially for young African-American kids. We talk about it all the time, and sometimes you think that accusation comes from mainstream. This times people your own color will accuse you of stuff you did not do. Big C, speaking of accusations, around the world, I know POTUS just got back from shaking hands with Putin. The World Anti-Doping Agency has turned over evidence from 43, let me get what do you say that bell? 43 Russian doping cases, Big C, 43. And this is not something that Big C Sports came up with. This is from the World Anti-Doping Agency. They turned over evidence from 43 Russian doping cases to international sports federations, all based on data received from the Moscow laboratory that WADA scientists gained access to earlier this year. So not only do we have the interference with the United States election, they also interfere with elections around the world in other countries. But would you believe 2019 and we're still dealing with doping? And POTUS sells to the American athletes, it lets African American athletes that stand up for liberty and justice for all get the blank out of the country. He also has some vitriol to say for the United States women's soccer team. But he shakes hands with Putin, and the Russians got 43 doping cases. He says nothing about it. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, if you remember the last Winter Olympics, the Russians were banned from participating in the last Winter Olympics because of anti-doping rules that they had broken, Charlton. This is the mantra of that country, to cheat, regardless whether it's in athletics or whether it's in politics. We know that Putin controls the politics over there through cheating and silencing his competitors.
Yeah.
So this is nothing new with Russia. Russia's always been hit with this. Years ago, Eastern Bloc countries, Charlton, in the 60s and 70s, would have people compete on the women's side, Charlton. But after the Olympics, you would never see them again. And I know there was allegations of doping, of sex change, and everything else in the 60s and 70s with Eastern European Bloc countries, as Russia and Germany. And so this is nothing new. The Russians are not going to stop what they do. They're going to try to find every way they can to cheat and bend the needle in their favor. And I mean literally bend the needle in their favor. And so this is what's expected. When you're not open to the world and you're a country that blocks everything that you do from the outside, this is expected.
Yeah, it's expected. I think it's egregious, but we know it goes on. If you know it goes on and you get proof of it, then if you're okay with it, then you're good with it. It's just when it happens and it helps them unfair compete, but that's part of life too. It's all fair and love and war. I want to finish our last few minutes today with Big C Sports because I love talking about Curt Flood when it comes to baseball. I love talking about liberty and justice for all when it comes to all people, especially standing up for African Americans because I am one, and oftentimes we don't get equal time on media. I think Big C Sports gives as much equal time to anybody when it comes to that. But I want to just touch a little bit on some college football because I know we have kickoff, Big C, in August. That's just less than 60 days away for kickoff for a lot of teams, Big C. Top quarterbacks, just want to get your thoughts on some. Trevor Lawrence is what a lot of people consider the top quarterback. And you think about him at Clemson. Now, he has a great season last year, 3,280 yards. Only 30 touchdowns, though, compared to what happened at Ohio State, 50 touchdowns for Haskins. But 30 touchdowns in a national championship, can he do that again next year now that people have a read on him, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I think he'll continue to develop as a young college quarterback. But you have to give the accolades to Clemson as a team, Charlton. Even when Trevor Lawrence was knocked out of a game, their backup quarterback came in and won the game. He was surrounded by a host of tremendous talent. Trevor Lawrence reminds me of quarterbacks that used to play at the University of Miami. He's surrounded by guys who have played in the NFL for a long time. Half of his defense went to the NFL. Half of his offense went to the NFL. He's going to be having the luxury of having his running back and his top two receivers back, Charlton. But it's going to be a lot of pressure on him to duplicate the performance. Now, you look at Clemson's program overall. When you think about the last three quarterbacks that have been in Clemson, they've all been in the college playoff series, Charlton. So it's the system that has worked in Clemson. It's not that Trevor Lawrence came in and blew people away. Clemson has been there every year.
Well, I look at Tua Tagovailoa. I just want to call him Tua because I don't want to mispronounce his last name. Heisman runner-up, the nation's
Tagovailoa,
the nation's highest quarterback rating of 199.44. He had 48 total touchdowns, actually 43 total touchdowns, I believe. He also had that knee injury, which I hate because I know in college, if you have a knee injury, they can kind of mask it over, kind of like what Andre Iguodala was saying what happened to him as a professional basketball player. So I like him. But a kid that I'm really high on too, Big C, that could have also gone to the NFL, Justin Herbert from Oregon. He's one of the top 5 they're considering for the NFL draft, despite 3,151 yards last year, 29 touchdowns. This kid, I think, can lead Oregon back to at least a Pac-12 championship game. And I really feel if they can knock off Auburn down south in the first part of the season, that will propel them to have a strong season. But they're in the Pac-12 North where they still got to get past Washington, and they still got to get past Stanford, which are always strong. And then Washington State, Big C. Give me your feeling on Tua and also on Justin, Big C, your thoughts.
Well, I see Tua building on what he's had. You think about the momentum that he has had in the year and a half that he has played college football, Charlton. He's done nothing but phenomenal things.
Yeah.
When I look at Justin Herbert out at Oregon, Charlton, I see a lot of inconsistency over the last 2 years with him. This is a team that's been packed by everybody to win the Pac-12, and yet they've fallen short. And in the big games, he's not been able to deliver. So what type of pressure quarterback is he? He has not proven it yet that he can get over that hump.
Give me your thoughts on Tua. I know he had a great coming out party in a national championship game, and then when he got the chance to start, because they I won't say he beat out Hurts, but got the starting job, but then he got the injury. And we know once you're injured, especially around the knee, they can mask it all they want, but anytime a guy's wearing a brace, there's something going on, even if it's just emotionally. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he's had a complete offseason to recuperate. So I don't think that knee will hamper him in any, and most likely he had some type of minor surgery to correct whatever the ailment was with the knee. But, coming back this year, you got to look at Alabama. All they do is reload, Charlton, year after year after year. They're like Clemson. They're going to show up at the end of the year. They're going to have an outstanding team. I mean, they're bringing back all their receivers except for their tight end, but that's just a plug-in position.
Yeah.
They're going to fill in the running backs. I mean, they still have running backs that can play. They always have them, Charlton. This is a team that's always 3 and 4 player deep at every position.
Yeah, there's a lot of good players, and we'll talk about more coming out through the season. But down in your neck of the woods, Jake Fromm has thrown 54 touchdown passes in his first 2 college seasons. He can only go up. This is a team they were knocked off by Texas last year in the Sugar Bowl, the Cotton Bowl. But I do know that they're still a consistent team. If Alabama were not in the SEC, then maybe we would be looking at Georgia as the dominant team in that conference. Give me your feeling on Fromm. Do you think he's ready to take the mantle, Big C? Your thoughts?
Fromm is a very solid quarterback, Charlton. What Georgia has to do is they have to improve their receiving core. I mean, they lost a lot of key receivers, their tight end, the top wide out. So it's going to be, can the young guys step up this year and help Fromm out? He's solid. I mean, this is the guy as a true freshman.
Yeah.
He was in the college football playoffs. He missed it by 1 game as a sophomore. Not that Georgia took a step back. It's all about you can only put 4 teams in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They have a very solid organization down there with Kirby Smart at the helm. And Fromm, has complete command of this football team.
Last player, ex-Georgia starter, Jacob Eason, transferred to Washington. He's going to get coached by Chris Peterson, who was successful at Boise State, successful at Washington, and helped Browning become a walk-on with Minnesota Vikings. I thought he would have been drafted, but Browning never really learned to handle the blitz. But Peterson has had some great success with the quarterbacks. Do you think he'll maybe blossom with the West Coast style of maybe passing more so than pounding the football? Big C, your thoughts?
Oh, Charlton, he's going back home to play. He's from Washington.
Yeah.
So now he's back in his environment. I mean, he was an outstanding quarterback at Georgia. He fell to injury and lost his starting position, Charlton. And Fromm stepped in and didn't miss a stride. Now, Eason has had a year in the Washington system. He redshirted out there last year. Now he's stepping in. He's seen how this Huskies offense works.
Yeah.
He was one of the top 5 quarterbacks coming out of high school when he went to the University of Georgia. Now he's back at home in Washington, Charlton. I think he'll challenge Herbert as the top quarterback in the Pac-12.
That would be great to see. I love when college football is in the air. We want to just celebrate with the United States World Cup and hopefully the World Cup champions, the USA soccer team. It's all fair and love and war. Major League Baseball coming around the All-Star break. Really love seeing people paying more attention to baseball now that hockey and basketball are out of the way. We don't know where Kawhi Leonard's going to be. Maybe he decides that he wants to retire. Wouldn't that be? Michael Jordan did it before Big C. I don't think that would be crazy. But it's fun when we talk about all these great things. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Spreaker, even on YouTube. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity Comcast Television. What I really love is the app that you have in the home called Alexa. When you go home, say, Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You'll hear our sponsors come up, and then you'll hear welcome to the show. And then I'll introduce Big C, and he'll do his thing. We really appreciate our sponsors for all their support. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, we've had the NBA free agent frenzy. We had the NHL free agent frenzy.
Yep.
Now we can sit back and settle in on some great baseball being played here in the U.S., but also looking forward to the U.S. Women's World Cup soccer match, Charlton, for the World Cup. That's what I'm really excited about, the U.S. women having an opportunity to bring it home for the second consecutive World Cup.
Well, we look forward to it. I've already heard fire trucks flying all over California, putting out fires already, Big C. There's smoke in the air in Northern California, and we know it's not caused by natural. They can't blame PG&E for this one. This is about good old boys and their fireworks that are not done in a proper and safe environment. Please, if you're going to have fireworks around, especially young people, please be smart. At least read the warnings. Speaking of fireworks and having a great time, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old buds down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know anyone going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you, on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.